K&A Custom Crafts on Facebook.
Hey, what's going on, everybody? Welcome to the Coast to Coast Entertainment Network. I am Ace, and of course, tonight you're watching another episode of Tuesday Night Mania. So let me welcome in the gentleman I have with me tonight. He's here right now. He's saying that Kenny Omaga's number one, but his name's actually Joe. So welcome him in, Joe.
What's up, guys? How's everyone doing tonight?
Doing great.
You see that? You see that Buccaneer logo right there, baby? You see that?
See that one? Oh, you can't see my camera's too high.
I'm repping it right now. All right, so all right, and then of course, welcoming him in, he goes by none other than our fearless leader, Will from TRC. William Hudson, how you doing tonight, my man?
Doing great, Ace, man. I'm ready to go, ready to talk about some great stuff. We changed the format up a little bit because we want to give everybody some different things to talk about and chime in and comment and all that stuff, because being interactive is what makes it fun. So I'm just ready to go. I thought Crispy was going to stay with us, but looks like Mess Around Dave's going to jump in, so that's cool. So I'm ready to go.
Yep, he will be here once we get to Mr. Viper. So, all right. So how about we start this out with the first thing, and that's of course we're going to turn this over to Joe. Joe's going to go ahead and give us a little recap of AEW.
I know I got 60 seconds to do this, so let's see if I can't do this.
Yeah, man.
AEW was no, I'm kidding. AEW was pretty good. All right, show. It wasn't the best, it wasn't the worst. We got to see Brody King come in this week as a part of the House of Black, which was supposed to happen last week, which for whatever reasons did not happen. Looks like we're going to get a feud with Hangman and Lance Archer, which I'm kind of looking forward to. I just hope AEW, I was thinking about it earlier, that they don't turn Lance Archer like WWE did Big Show like 60 times in 1 year between a good guy and a bad guy. But I think that might be a little interesting feud. It looks like we got tension starting to build in the Elite, and now we're getting Britt Baker involved in it. So it looks like we will have the Elite against the Best Friends with Chris Statlander going forward here a little bit, and they are moving towards their pay-per-view in March. And tomorrow night we get the return of Jon Moxley after being out with his rehab stint. So AEW Dynamite tomorrow night should look pretty good, considering that Cody Rhodes right now is supposedly a free agent.
All right. Well, thank you for that, Joe. Nice little AEW recap. So tonight, we're going to kind of recap a little bit of NXT. So really the big thing that I would say to really touch on right now as far as the NXT side is basically you have, AJ Styles, who's kind of running around down there at NXT, because he's actually a guy who actually came out that said he, once his contract expires, he wants to work with the young guys over there at NXT. So right now he's actually working with Grayson Waller, because I don't know, he sees something in Grayson. I think that Grayson's he's good, he's talented, but not on AJ Styles level. That's why I was kind of surprised that AJ Styles wanted to do that. But I think that this could actually end up being a good rivalry. You saw that Grayson actually showed up on Monday Night Raw too, which was interesting, because now to kind of build it up a little bit more. Other than that, you have Bond Breakker, which I will tell you this. A lot of people are questioning why they haven't really gone with the Steiner name. But I'm okay with it not having to be a Steiner name, because not everybody that's been generational wrestling, they don't always have the same name as everybody else. So I'm okay with them having a different name. That's really all the really old recap for NXT that we really have. The main part, anyways, is AJ Styles and Grayson Waller.
Good deal. Very
all
good.
Right.
So what wrestler can you think of that was a second generation wrestler that didn't go with the father's name?
A second generational guy?
Yeah.
Well, so I think the Usos right now are like third or fourth or something like that. But you have to think their dad is Rikishi, and they don't really have anything that deals with Rikishi. They don't have anything like that. So they kind of have their own thing going on. You have Roman Reigns who has his own thing going on.
But
So,
but they have acknowledged the
yeah,
Usos being and Rikishi was fought too early in his wrestling career. So unless you're a wrestling fan like Will and I are from back in the day, you really wouldn't know who Fatu was.
hmm
Right.
You know, being a part of the Wild Samoans and then the Head Shrinkers when they went to the WWE at the time. So, yeah, them and Roman. I mean, his father's Alpha, but I mean, who really knows who the Wild Samoans are in that sense?
exactly. That's my point, though. Like, so it's not.
And Braun Breaker came out and said, you know, he's fine with it because
Mhm.
he everybody knows who he is in a sense, and he's creating his own identity. And in this way too, WWE now owns that name. So say Braun Breaker decides 6 years from down the road he wants to go work somewhere else, somebody else can become a Braun Breaker.
Well, yeah, but that's why I'm okay with it though too. Is that because now he has a path to kind of where he can pave his own path without having to be like, okay, the Steiner name is behind it now. Now people are expecting to be like his dad. He can kind of pave his own path. That's what I like about it too.
So just for clarity purposes, Alpha is not Roman's dad. Sika is Roman's dad.
Okay, they're all in the same bloodline.
They are the same bloodline, both Samoan dynasty. But
Gosh dang it.
just for clarity purposes, they're not. So Jimmy and Jay, I'm pretty sure both their last names are Fatu.
They are correct.
Because that's Rikishi's actual last name is Fatu. I guess they just never went by that because they went by the Usos, as in like they went by the buddies or the good guys or the family, folks. The definition of Uso. So, second generational, those guys do a lot to pay tribute to their uncle, which is Samu, also known as Big Sam in the Samoan dynasty, and then of course their dad Fatu from the Head Shrinkers. One interesting thing about the Head Shrinkers, looking back in time, and I'm getting ready to go into our historical moment. Late '94, early '95, Samu went out with an injury and was replaced by the Barbarian under the name of Sione, which is really, really cool. So if you looked at that tag team, which was Sione and Fatu, those guys were unstoppable. For some reason, those two as Head Shrinkers never really got over. And then, of course, you ended up having Rikishi. Well, he became Fatu for a new change or a new challenge or whatever it was. He wanted to do good for the community and all that. You remember that when he was like the hip hop flash colors and all that stuff.
Yeah.
And then, of course, he transitioned on into Rikishi, but
then he became the Sultan.
yeah. So, he became Sultan, then he went on to Rikishi. So you're right. I forgot about that one. But kind of going into our historical moment, I think that's next, right? Our historical moment's next, right? So Royal Rumble, anytime I think of January, I've talked about this before, I always think about the Royal Rumbles and how exciting they are and how exciting they were as a kid, looking back 25, 26 years ago, back to Royal Rumble 95. What a stacked card. What a fun time to be a wrestling fan. It was still a time of characters. There was a ton of characters. You've had guys that came out with stakes on their tights, calling themselves Well Done. You had a Native American Indian in Tatanka. You had Bam Bam Bigelow, the bouncer from the bars with flames on his head. You had Bob Sparkplug Holly, who was supposed to be a race car driver as a character. Double J, Jeff Jarrett, country music singer. Just such a crazy, awesome time. Just incredible as Aldo Montoya, the man of war. Just such a crazy fun time to be a fan back then. So Royal Rumble 95, what an incredible experience. So starts off with Jeff Jarrett versus Razor Ramon for the Intercontinental title, and nobody thought Jeff Jarrett was going to win this Intercontinental title. So Jarrett comes out, and this is 1995. So, this is a long, long time ago. He comes out with an LED light up hat, LED light up boots. I mean, as he's walking to the ring, the JJ on his hat is flashing red with LED lights. His boots are flashing red with his name. I mean,
His sunglasses too. Remember
the sunglasses? Yep, absolutely. So, I mean, that's pretty forward thinking for 1995, you know. And it comes out in this outfit. They wrestle the match. The match ends in a disqualification. Razor retains the title. Well, then of course, you know, Jeff Jarrett challenges him, tells him he's a big coward and all this stuff. So Razor goes back in there. They restart the match. Long story short, there, Jarrett wins the Intercontinental title, and he hangs on to it for a long time. I mean, for many months, to where you would never believe that Jarrett would hold on to that belt for so long. And then, you know, you go a little further into the card. You got the Undertaker and IRS. You know, that's not really a major match because you would think Undertaker would just squash him. But they build the WrestleMania feud between Undertaker and Bundy. Back then, you only had 5 pay-per-views a year. So between January and April, you had to build feuds. So they started building that feud. You get on over to the Bret Hart Diesel match for the world title, which should have been the greatest match on the card. Not really that great, but it was still a good match. Then what should have happened, you should have had Bam Bam Bigelow and Tatanka win the tag team championships. But again, because you're trying to build your WrestleMania card, they have Bam Bam and Tatanka lose. 1, 2, 3 Kid, Bob Holly become the world tag champions. So Bam Bam can get laughed at and start his feud with LT, Lawrence Taylor, who's sitting at ringside. You know, so a lot of that stuff back then, it all makes sense looking back on it now. But as a fan and watching it, you're like, man, I can't believe this just happened, you know? Then you go on to the Royal Rumble. So every Royal Rumble before 1995, they always said, you know, you're eliminated when you go over the top and you touch the floor, is what they said. Well, going into the Royal Rumble 95, the build-ups on Raw, the actual Rumble itself, they constantly stay when you go over the top rope and both feet touch the floor. They had never done that before that. Never done that before Royal Rumble 95. So there's a reason why they did that. So Shawn Michaels enters as number 1. British Bulldog enters as number 2. And overall, British Bulldog is the man of the night. I mean, he looks incredible throughout the whole match. Definitely, he had the match of the night at Royal Rumble 95. So you get down to Shawn and Bulldog at the end. So they both survive from number 1 and number 2 all the way to the end. And it's Shawn and Bulldog. Bulldog clothesline Shawn over the top. So you're like, oh, wow, you know, Bulldog won it. And then next thing you know, only one of Shawn's feet hit the floor. Now, again, remember, all the years prior to this, it was, you know, if you go over the top rope and touch the floor, you're out. But this year, the buildup was if you go over the top rope and both feet touch the floor, so only one of Shawn's feet touch the floor. They go through, they build this big feud between Shawn and Diesel at WrestleMania. And that, you know, history's history. They were so simple-minded with pushing Shawn, and then they didn't even give him the belt at WrestleMania 11. They didn't give it to him for a full another year at WrestleMania 12, which will bring me into Royal Rumble 96 here in just a minute. But, you know, looking back on it, the characters that you had inside of the Royal Rumble 95 that could have possibly been the winner. You had Lex Luger, which was a major contender. You had Crush is one that nobody really thinks about. Crush, well, he was in his prime. He definitely could have been a major contender. Owen Hart enters the ring in the 95 Royal Rumble, comes in one side, goes straight in the ring, out the other side with a back body drop. Owen Hart could have been a major contender as well, and right out of the ring. So, you know, there's definitely some missed opportunities there. And we're going to talk a little more about missed opportunities later tonight with some other stuff. But, you know, overall, I would say, and Joe, you can correct me if I'm wrong, I'd say an 8 out of 10 on the Royal Rumble 95. I think it was a great pay-per-view. You know, just some phenomenal matches, some phenomenal characters. And back when wrestling was so much fun, you know, and not just because you were a kid, because I literally have it on right now, watching it in the background. And it was just so much fun. The final 4 competitors in the Rumble are Lex, Crush, Shawn, and Bulldog. I mean, think about the history right there between those guys. So I'll take a slight pause in case you guys want to add anything, and then I'll cover Rumble 96 really fast.
Yeah, that's fine. I just think how you talk about, you know, how it changed to both feet have to touch the floor. And when you think about it now, it's actually happened in quite a few Royal Rumbles now. You can think about, The Rock and Big Show.
Right.
So supposedly, The Rock's both of his feet didn't touch the floor. So then The Rock ended up winning that one also. But then you also mentioned about how, they had Shawn, win, but they did not put the belt on Shawn. And when you think about Royal Rumble, that's typically something that you would kind of expect at first. You win the Royal Rumble. It usually means you're going on to WrestleMania. You're going to win the belt. But you're starting to see it a little bit more now to where you're not guaranteed to win the title if you win the Royal Rumble, because it's actually happened quite a few times. Shinsuke Nakamura, Edge, Batista. There was 3 of them that come off the top of my head right away that I'm like, well, they won the Rumble and they never actually went out and won the belt. And normally when you think about it, a lot of people say, oh, you win the Rumble, you win the belt. A lot has changed in the Royal Rumble now. It's still one of my favorites, but now whenever somebody wins, I'm like, okay, that doesn't mean they're going to go out and win the belt like I used to think.
And I don't know the exact math, but I'd be willing to bet there's been more winners of the Rumble that have gone on to not win the title than to win the title.
Yeah, which is interesting because you're supposed to be getting a push. That's why they have you win the Rumble, to give you a push. And that's what kind of throws it off to me, is when they go in and they don't win the belt.
Right, absolutely. So just to jump real quick into Rumble 96. So Rumble 96, Goldust had only been with the company for about 3.5 months, goes into Rumble 96, takes the Intercontinental title off Razor Ramon, and everybody was like, why in the world would Razor Ramon lose to Goldust? Well, in reality, right around that time, Razor had already given his notice that he was leaving to go to WCW. So they had to get the belt off of him, and they took it off really early because he didn't actually leave until after the April In Your House pay-per-view. But, you had that match, Rumble 96. The only other real match that stands out to me is Bret Hart and The Undertaker, where, it was very believable that The Undertaker could take the belt off of Bret. It didn't happen because Diesel interferes, setting up Diesel versus Undertaker at WrestleMania. And then, of course, at the end of the Royal Rumble in 96, which, again, packed full of great superstars, packed full of great characters. It comes down to Shawn Michaels and Diesel, and Shawn kicks Diesel in the face, knocks him over the top, wins the Royal Rumble. I highly recommend both Rumble 95 and 96. Go check them out. Go watch them. Really great pay-per-views, especially if you've been watching for a very long time and you get that nostalgic feeling of being a kid again. Very, very cool. So I would highly recommend both of those.
Yeah, and you know what? I was a huge Shawn Michaels fan then. It just surprised me that they had him win in back-to-back years. Yep. And so I was like, but it was cool to see because at that time you didn't really see it. And so I was like, hey, so once he won it, if I do remember right, I could be wrong. Didn't he go on to win the belt this time?
At WrestleMania 12.
Yes. Yes. I was going to say, I believe this one he actually went on to win the belt. So yes. I was actually happy for Shawn in this one.
Yep.
All right. So if you want to, we can go ahead and jump on to our next topic here.
Welcome, Dave.
Yep. Welcome in, Mess Around Dave. We asked him to come on this one because his favorite wrestler of all time, well, not of all time, but his current favorite wrestler, I would say right now, is Randy Orton. But his favorite wrestler of all time is actually Bret Hart. But
mine too.
So when we talk about his current favorite one and Randy Orton, so Mess Around, I'll give you the floor first on this one since you just came in here. So basically, you can talk a little bit about Randy Orton's career and his current run and what you think his future plan and your favorite match of Randy Orton's is.
Can you start out with me?
Yeah, go ahead.
I like his current character. I think I like the whole RK Bro thing and the way they're going with that. And I think they should keep going for a little while longer because they're making a lot of money off it. And I don't know how much longer he's going to do it. He's been going at it for a long time. He's actually wrestled most matches of anybody ever. So I think he's going to get a title. He should get another title before his career's over. Maybe a couple. Maybe break the record if Cena doesn't come back and do it before him.
All right. Do you have a favorite match of Randy Orton's that you really think of off the top of your head?
My favorite match? Oh, geez. There's so many of them. I would probably have to go. Probably the one he did with Edge. The greatest match ever, whatever they wanted to call it. I think that was probably my favorite.
It was a really good match. What do you think of his overall career?
Definitely going to be a Hall of Famer, but WWE Hall of Fame is kind of a joke anyway. They let anybody in there, but he'll definitely get in there. He's had one of the greatest careers out of anybody outside of The Undertaker.
Voices. Yeah, gotta go with the Randy Orton there. All right, Joe, I'll go to you on this one. Randy Orton.
Randy Orton is absolutely one of my favorite wrestlers of all time. I love him to death. He actually started wrestling on March. I was looking it up here. March 18th. It looks like 2000 is when he got into the ring, made his debut. So he's been around for quite a long time. Cut his teeth down there in Ohio Valley Wrestling back in, and then came into the WWE during the McMahon era of showing ruthless aggression. He came in when Cena came in, and kind of started off a little rough. He got hurt quite a bit in the beginning, so it was almost like, was his career ever going to take off? And if it, thank goodness Evolution came around, and Triple H seen something in him and brought him in, because if it wasn't for that, I don't know if Orton would have made it around too much longer. He was just kind of spinning his wheels a little bit, but a great career. My favorite for Orton era is that, and he is a guy that will tell you, hey, I messed up when I was younger. I did a lot of stupid things, and I've learned from it. And he's giving back to the wrestlers now, telling them, don't do these things that he did, type thing. But he's also a guy that is brutally honest, which ticks a lot of wrestlers off sometimes. But he expects it the same way too when it comes to him. He critiques his own matches too. He's very hard on himself. The Legend Killer is my all-time favorite. I love when Orton's a bad guy. I don't hate it. I dislike a lot of it when he's a good guy a lot of times. Like this RK Bro thing going on right now. I can't stand it. I just so want Orton to punt Riddle in the head really hard. I do. And maybe I just don't like Riddle. But I so want him to punt him in the head and then RK him off top rope through a table and send Riddle back down to NXT. That's where I'm at with it. And hopefully it's coming too. I think that might be a WrestleMania matchup here down the line, because you can see where Orton's getting frustrated with Riddle by not listening to him. But great career, Hall of Fame career. Like I said, I'm glad that he finally started changing up his gear a little bit, because now we got new action figures, because he's like, how come I'm not getting an action figure? And they're like, you never change your gear up. And once he started doing that, man, we started getting action figures like crazy. I do believe he's got another title run in him. I really do. Probably in the summer, I would think. Once after WrestleMania rolls around, then they'll push him into the summer. Hopefully he'll get one long run out of it. And then at that point, just kind of help bring up the next set of crop of guys, and then call it a career and ride off into the sunset with his wife and kids.
So we have a question from Donnie Morris here. And so to answer your question, Donnie Morris, in Randy Orton's career, he has wrestled 2,275 matches in his career. And he has a win-loss record. He has 1,232 wins and 1,043 losses. So that tells you how many matches he's actually had in his career. He's had a ton of matches. And to me, Randy Orton is absolutely a Hall of Famer without question. And even, and I know, mess around, you're saying that, the WWE Hall of Fame is kind of a joke. I get where you're coming from on that, because everybody gets in there. They do. But even if the WWE Hall of Fame was hard to get in, Randy Orton would be in there. regardless because of what he's accomplished in his career. So, Will, I'll go ahead and turn this one over to you.
Yeah, so just to touch on the Hall of Fame, I hear that a lot about WWE's Hall of Fame being a joke, and I get it. I mean, we're talking about sports entertainment where everything's scripted, so we're not talking about, NFL Super Bowl champions, but at the same time, I think the purpose of the Hall of Fame is more for contributions that people have made to the business. And I do think there's people in there that probably shouldn't be, but I think they've all contributed something. There's a lot of people in there that should be that are not in there. And I also think a physical location of a Hall of Fame, something like Canton, Ohio, would really bring up the thought process on the Hall of Fame being a legitimate thing, because if you have a physical building and a museum and all that, I think that would really make a difference. So I would definitely say that about the Hall of Fame. Talking about Orton, unless I'm wrong, he's still the youngest world heavyweight champion of all time, which is a huge feat. He didn't really get anything from his dad. I mean, his dad was popular, but his dad wasn't that popular. He really got where he got on his own and did his own thing. And Triple H and Ric Flair, Batista definitely helped push him along and pushed him to that first world title in 2004. But I think he did a lot of that on his own, and he had the charisma to do it. You're talking about a guy who potentially could be a 15-time world champion. There's nobody else current roster that can match that. I mean, Triple H is pretty much done. I don't think he'll ever wrestle again. Cena doesn't want to break Ric Flair's record, at least as long as he's alive. So I don't think you'll ever see that happen. And I really, I picture Orton going to go on and become at least a 15-time champion. Now, whether or not he'll be 16, 17 time, I don't know, because I don't think he'll be around that long. He's been going really, really hard for a really long time. But I do think that he'll hit 15 times. And he was also world champion during a time period where the belt wasn't really flip-flopping on every Monday night like it has. And he's also multiple-time Intercontinental champion, tag champion. He's pretty much done it all. So you can't really think about a main event in WWE for the past, 12 or 13 years without thinking about Orton somewhere. He's won a couple Royal Rumbles, kind of out of nowhere. I know that's a slogan, but kind of out of nowhere. He's won some Royal Rumbles that nobody expected him to do. And the guy is definitely a main eventer anywhere. Future plans, I'd definitely like to see him become that 15-time world champion. I'd really like to see him become a 16-time world champion and be tied with Flair and Cena. I think that he's definitely worth it, and he's up there. And a lot of the greatest wrestlers out there, Ric Flair, John Cena, and some of the other ones, they'll tell you that they consider Randy Orton one of, if not the best out there. And that's a real big thing, if you consider it. So, favorite match with Randy Orton, I saw a couple comments in here. One of them was from Steven. He said his favorite match of Randy Orton was a no holds barred match he had with Mick Foley at Backlash 2004. And then let's see. Scott Pace said he's not a fan of Riddle. Thinks he's kind of wasting his time. People always want to point to Coco Beware as making the Hall of Fame as a joke. I'm okay with him being in. Where I draw the line is them forcing the celebrity ring. My favorite match with Randy Orton, I would have to say my favorite match was probably WrestleMania 30. And he didn't even win the match. Daniel Bryan actually won the match for the world title, but I think that was probably my favorite match with Randy Orton. Him and Batista in there with Daniel Bryan. That was a great, complete match. And I think that was my favorite.
Okay, bro,
All right.
haters.
All right. Well, so we do have a comment here from Stephen Coleman, who talked about the RK Bro haters. But hold on, before we get to that, so Scott Pace. So speaking of Hall of Fame, I want to touch on this really quick because this is what Scott Pace says. He says people always want to point to like Coco Beware as making the Hall of Fame a joke. I'm okay with him being in. Where I draw the line is forcing the celeb wing. So let me ask you, do you feel like Coco Beware should be in the Hall of Fame?
Yes.
Joe, how about you? Do you feel like Coco Beware should be in?
It doesn't bother me anyway. I mean, their Hall of Fame is just their Hall of Fame. But Coco being in there, If you look at his WWE run and you base it upon that, no, because I mean he didn't do anything spectacular. But you got to go back and look at where Coco Beware came from and how he worked his way up to the independents and world class in those areas like that, and Mid South Wrestling. He was actually a big part of the movement for African American wrestlers back in the day when it wasn't a big popular thing. I mean, Ernie Ladd and those guys really started off with Coco Beware and Junkyard Dog. Those guys helped a lot down there in the Mid South area. So overall, yeah, he deserves it. I mean, but again, it depends on what you want to base it upon. If based upon a WWE career, probably not. But I mean, that's just because he didn't really have a whole lot of uh, great matches in the WWE. But overall, yes.
Can I make a point here, Joe, with
Yeah.
Coco? So two things. Number one, Coco worked his tail off doing house shows and was a huge fan favorite and pretty much did any kind of stupid thing WWE told him to do because
Put
he
those
needed a
stupid pants
job.
on.
Yeah. Well, yeah, exactly. But he needed a job. The man walked around with a parrot. The man deserves to be in the Hall of Fame. Second of all, if you didn't have Coco Beware, you wouldn't have had that awesome moment at Survivor Series 90 where he goes, runs, and jumps, and The Undertaker moves out of the way, and he chokes himself on the top rope and slingshots backwards. If you don't know what I'm talking about, go watch the Dream Team versus the $1 Million Team at Survivor Series 90, where Coco Beware goes running at The Undertaker. This is Undertaker's first match in WWE. And Undertaker sidesteps him, and he goes and like slams his throat on the top rope. It's my favorite Coco Beware moment of all time.
Yeah, and you look at Undertaker. I think Undertaker didn't realize he was going to do that, and he was like, okay."
Yeah, I absolutely loved it, and I mean, I could watch that thing over and over. So
Oh yeah,
watch it.
he was great for helping put guys over and make
Yes.
guys look like $1 million. I 100% agree with that.
Coco was a glorified jobber, but let me tell you some other guys that are Hall of Famers that were glorified jobbers, and you can disagree with this, but it's the honest truth. Hacksaw Jim Duggan was the biggest glorified jobber of all time. That guy would go into matches just to lose and put somebody over. And there's a lot of other Hall of Famers that are out there that were literally just jobbers, that have gone into the Hall of Fame.
That's why I think like the Brooklyn Brawler needs to go in there, and maybe even Mr. Barry Horowitz. He's pledging himself to get into the Hall of Fame.
Yeah, I don't know about Barry, but I would say definitely the Brooklyn Brawler, if for nothing else, but the fact that he played Kimchi and was really believable as Kimchi.
Yes.
So when it
Red
comes
Rooster
to the Hall
needs
of
to go in there
Fame,
too.
think about the women's side here for a second, because we've been talking about the male side a little bit. So let me ask you this, Miss Elizabeth. Now, there's been a
100%.
lot of speculation saying no, she shouldn't, and yes, she should. For me personally, I believe that Miss Elizabeth should be in.
I agree.
But
I agree.
100% agree. But Lex Luger should also be in there. But because of that situation where, they were both in a house, they both were doped up, to put it nicely. And because of that, for some reason, they've allowed all these other drug addicts in the Hall of Fame, but they haven't allowed them in because she lost her life. And nobody wants to say, well, Miss Elizabeth's in there. That's great that she got the Hall of Fame. But what happened to her? Where's she at now? Why is she not signing autographs? Nobody wants to explain that to their kid. Well, I'm sorry, but she overdosed on drugs. I mean, it's a great teaching and training moment with a child. Hey, this is why you don't do drugs, But I think a lot of it is, people don't want to have that conversation. And during the PG era, I think that's why you don't have it. Now, if we were to go back 20 years or whatever, then I think maybe they would have put her in. They put China in.
I was going to say that, and that's where I was going to go with that, because China, great, did great for women wrestling. Don't get me wrong, and she broke a lot of burial grounds. But let's face it, I mean, you type in the word China, a lot of things ain't going to come up when it comes to pro wrestling with her.
Right.
And she's in. So, I mean, Elizabeth should go in, based upon what she brought to the business.
Absolutely.
And Lex. And I'm hoping that with WWE working with Lex and Lex working with the WWE, that eventually he will get in, because he deserves it. And hopefully down the line, Elizabeth does. but who would accept it for Elizabeth? I'm not sure because her family hates pro wrestling. They blame the pro wrestling business on what happened to her. But then again, if I decide to do the stuff that pro wrestlers do, that's on me. That's not the pro wrestling business, And if something happened to me, I would hope that my family wouldn't blame the business for what I did. I'm the one that decided to do extra stuff. Let's
Mhm.
let's say.
So we have a few comments here. So the first one is, so Donnie Morris is saying, didn't Coco take the first ever tombstone? I
I think so.
On TV, yes.
I think so.
Yes.
All right, and then Scott Pace is saying, how is Sable not in for the women? That's actually
Because she was involved in that lawsuit over sexual harassment with Vince.
I guess that makes sense, but
I think
Yeah.
over time, because Brock's like his favorite son-in-law. Vince,
Yeah.
what I'm saying. So
I think she'll be in.
she'll get in at some point. Yeah,
I
I'm pretty sure if Brock pushed for it. If I ain't gonna Vince, I'm not signing another contract unless my wife goes in the Hall of Fame. But Brock's being a private guy. Maybe he doesn't want Sable in there either. Who knows?
yeah.
Brock is a weird guy in real life.
Yes, he's very private. But then again, he's been showing his taking pictures with people, which I think is cool right now. Kind of giving everybody a different view on Brock. So. I think if Brock said Vince, I want Sable in, should be in the Hall of Fame.
Not to digress, but one other point I wanted to make about Orton that I kind of left out earlier. I just want to go back to it real quick. The story of Randy Orton, it's on Peacock Network. It came out like 10 or 12 years ago. Highly recommended. It's like an hour and a half long. It shows a lot of his, real life, his history, stuff like that. Excellent documentary. If you haven't seen it, you got to watch it. It's tremendous. I think it came out in 2010. Maybe 2011, but I think it was 2010. So I would highly recommend going back and watching that for anybody listening. Go check it out on the Peacock Network, the Randy Orton story. Excellent, excellent, excellent. Sorry,
yeah, I got that DVD somewhere, and Orton does say in that, like he's done podcasts where he's thanked a lot of guys for saving his career because he almost got fired when he was over in England and destroyed that hotel room and they sent him home.
Yeah. Which, well, so before we go into our next one, and I think I've discussed this with Mess Around Dave, plenty of times. Think about how many chances Randy Orton has gotten. And the reason I'm saying that is because of the wellness test that he's failed, like umpteen times, and he continues to come back. But besides that, he's had other chances though too. So maybe it's because he's one of Vince's favorites. Maybe that's kind of what it is. I don't know, but I know this guy's gotten a lot more chances than a lot of people have. But I'm not taking anything away from him. It just shocks me how many chances he's actually had.
So one point that the Ultimate Warrior made, literally like the week before he died, was that Vince McMahon is the most forgiving person on the planet Earth, to where no matter how many times you screw up, no matter how many times you do something wrong, it seems like the door is always open when you want to come home. And, the Ultimate Warrior, that weekend, they filmed this humongous documentary. They had no idea he was going to pass away, obviously, but they filmed this humongous documentary on the Ultimate Warrior literally the weekend that he passed away. He passed away on that Tuesday. He went into the Hall of Fame that Saturday and then passed away on Tuesday. So, but they were filming him the whole time. If you go back and watch it, and he talks about how forgiving Vince was. And I think that has a lot to do with it. I think Vince, I think the guys go to Vince and he forgives them and gives them another shot. And then they do something stupid and then he forgives them and gives them another shot.
Shawn Michaels is a perfect example of that.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah. Yep. So was Macho Man.
Macho Man, even Macho Hogan Man, too. Let's face it, Hogan and Vince has a love-hate relationship.
Macho Man was no saint. Macho Man was a drug addict. Hulk Hogan, we know he did the steroids. We know all that stuff. Ultimate Warrior, we know he did the steroids. Look at Jake the Snake. How many times did he come back to WWF and then WWE Hall of Fame and everything else? And not disrespectfully, but just pointing out facts. Jake the Snake's another one, man. Major drug addict, major problem. Scott Hall, Razor Ramon. Love the guy to death. I think very, very highly of him. I think he should be on a much higher pedestal in the professional wrestling world. But there's another drug addict and alcoholic right there. Ric Flair, another one, another alcoholic,
And most recently, unfortunately, a Jeff Hardy situation. Look how many times Jeff got in trouble in the WWE and they kept bringing him back.
Absolutely.
So just why we're here, I do want to say that I was checking out NXT tonight, and for the life of me, I don't understand. So they have actually changed Walter's name, and Walter is now known as Gunther.
That's
What?
weird. That's weird because he was Walter when it was advertised for the match.
Yeah, but now they have changed it to Gunther.
Well, he just killed Roderick Strong because it looks like Roderick Strong's on his way out too. He just created a pro wrestling T-shirt with him and his wife on the cover of it.
That's weird.
Seriously, it's on Pro Wrestling Tees right now. You can get a Roderick Strong T-shirt with him and his wife in there.
No, I mean it's weird about Walter changing his name. Why would you change his name?
Change it to Gunther.
Yeah,
Man, I got to
It
go
was-
to ringside and buy me a Walter action figure before it becomes Gunther.
it was Pritchard, I guess, who changed it.
Yeah, it wouldn't be surprising.
Yeah,
Why?
Gunther.
Why?
I don't know. That's what everybody was saying, because everyone's like, why? What's wrong with Walter? Why would you change it to Gunther?
To get beat up by a Walter or a Gunther doesn't help you at all because that guy's just tough in general. But I'd rather be beaten up by a Walter than saying, "Yeah, I got beat up by a Gunther."
So Donnie Morse is saying Hogan did steroids. My whole childhood was a lie. All right.
Yeah.
All right.
He took those WWE superstar vitamins, man.
That's right. Said the prayers, did the vitamins.
Right.
You guys remember those in the white bottle with the blue sticker?
Yes,
With
I
Hulk
ate
Hogan on
those
the
with the
front of
kid,
them?
man. They didn't get me. I didn't get built up like Hogan. That was false
Oh,
advertisement, man, and they tasted horrible.
You're taking
Right.
wrong pills, brother.
Yeah, exactly.
All right, so we can jump into our next topic, which is just talking about missed opportunities currently that they've had. So, mess around any current opportunities that you think have been missed.
I think they missed it on Monday night. They should have had Arcade Bro split up and drop titles that way.
Okay,
Think of.
all right. Will.
Well, let's start with this, Ace. Who is the current WWE champion?
Well, the current one right now is Brock Lesnar. Yes.
Brock Lesnar. So missed opportunities. Why on earth would you put that belt on Brock Lesnar instead of leaving it on Big E? And here's a missed opportunity. Before you turned Omos and AJ against each other, why wouldn't you have had Omos help AJ win that WWE title? Then, you have the idea of Omos is jealous because he helped AJ win the title. AJ's running around talking about being the phenomenal one and the world champion and this and that. What a great opportunity to have Omos destroy AJ, take that belt off of him, even if it was for a short time and you could have dropped it back to Big E or anybody else. And then, because of that feud, you've built Omos, and then you send AJ back to NXT and help him build younger guys and do all that stuff. What a missed opportunity. You take a guy who was just a tag team champion. Before that, he was a main eventer. He was a world champion. And you just one random Saturday night or Wednesday night or Tuesday night or whatever it was, send him to NXT with no build-up, no storyline. The missed opportunity for that whole charade is, where's the storyline? There is no storyline. There's no build-up. There's no, wow, I really want to see that. That's going to be really good. That's going to be interesting because they built it up. There's not really a such thing as a good guy and a bad guy anymore. The good guys do stuff that's worse than the bad guys. The bad guys, the only reason you know they're bad guys is because when the bell rings, they jump out of the ring and walk around it for 10 minutes pretending to be scared of the other guy. But 2 weeks ago, when they were a good guy, they ran in there and charged them. So that's the thing. That's the missed opportunity. And you could go through every single wrestler in WWE. You could go through every single storyline there is. The missed opportunity is there is no storyline. There's no build-up.
Well, I will say this, though. I do like the match that people have been waiting for a very, very long time, and that's the Brock Lesnar and Bobby Lashley match. People have been waiting for it forever.
Right.
And so, was it a missed opportunity as opposed to the AJ Styles and Omos thing? Yes, it was a missed opportunity on that. But now we're getting what people have been wanting for a while. Brock Lesnar versus Bobby Lashley. So that is kind of one thing that you can take out from here is
Right.
that we're now getting a match that people wanted.
But what do you do? Okay, Bobby Lashley versus Brock Lesnar. Yeah, everybody wants to see it, but it's going to be exciting and it's fun. But what do you do to make people go, "Wow, I want to see that"? You got to build it up. You need to have Lesnar come walking down the ramp and have Lashley come flying out of the back with a bat or a chair or something and beat him down and make it believable. Have Lashley do a couple finishing moves on the ramp. You know, you got to do something to make it exciting. Then you have Lesnar do his counterattack on, the following couple weeks later or whatever when he's healed up. You got to do something to build the storyline. It has to be exciting. You know, you've got the Hurt Business, that's kind of hit and miss. You had the Hurt Business, you didn't have the Hurt Business. Now you got the guys in the locker room. You have the Hurt Business all come out there and jump on Lesnar. And you can show how strong Lesnar is because he starts throwing them all around, and then Lashley jumps in there and takes over, and the Hurt Business successfully puts Lashley or Lesnar down. You build the feud. If you don't build the feud, it's just, wow, we finally got Lesnar versus Lashley. But with no build up, there's no point.
All right, so we do have a few comments here. So Stephen Coleman says that missed opportunities was Keith Lee, Ollie, and Finn Balor. I think with Finn Balor, though, I think you will start to see more. Now, with the Keith Lee thing, I did hear it was kind of more of a character thing. Like in the locker room, I heard he was kind of disrespectful in the locker room and hard to work with. And then Ollie, who knows? That was just a flat out. I don't know what they were trying to do with Ollie. That was the biggest thing. I've never been able to figure that one out.
Well, now he wants his release too.
Yep. And then Scott Pace is saying a few months back, but missed an opportunity for me was them not putting the title on Cesaro. Cesaro's always been talented, so he's definitely a guy that I feel at some point should have the title at some point, and maybe he will. I mean, just think about it. Kofi Kingston won the title after many, many years. After like 11 or 12 years, he finally won the title. You had Mark Henry, who had been chasing that heavyweight title forever, and he finally won it. So maybe Cesaro at some point will win it. All right, so Joe, I'll go to you. Some missed opportunities.
I've got so many. I don't know even where you want to start at. I feel with this Lesnar Roman match, WWE, I feel like they're going to screw it up. I really do. I don't think we're going to get exactly what we want out of it at all. Because I don't think they even know what they really want out of it. They're so gung-ho on getting this Roman Reigns Lesnar matchup at WrestleMania, which is going to happen no matter what. They just don't know how they're going to do it because there's talk of Rollins being the champion going into WrestleMania. So does that mean he beats Roman and then Roman challenges Lesnar? Or does Lesnar somehow lose because the bloodline interferes? I mean, so they're so far-fetched on wanting to see this Roman Lesnar matchup that they're cutting their own self off at the front because this Lesnar and Lashley matchup could be phenomenal if you let it play out the way it should play out, with both of them being mixed martial art fighters, with them both having Division 1A backgrounds in amateur wrestling. I mean, you could have a great storyline that could lead into a great WrestleMania matchup, and that's where it actually should be at, is at WrestleMania, because you want to fill those seats at WrestleMania for 2 nights. That's where it should be. We should have a build up from January to April and let those two guys go at it, but we're not going to get that. Missed storylines. There's, like I said, there's so many. Ali's talked about how he had these opportunities. He was supposed to win Money in the Bank. Could you imagine that? I mean, a guy that wasn't even predicted to win it and probably shouldn't have won it, but they had high hopes on him, and all of a sudden they changed the plans on that. Recently, Toni Storm, they put her in a feud with Charlotte, and all of a sudden that ended with her getting slapped with a pie in the face, and I think that's when she kind of decided that this wasn't for her. So many opportunities. I mean, we can go all the way back. We can go back to the Fiend era. We can go back to a tag team I thought had great potentials. The Bludgeon Brothers, I thought they had a really good potentials to do something good. Luke Harper, when he was Luke Harper on that single run. So it's unfortunate. I don't know what they're doing there that is why they're doing what they're doing. I think is, obviously it's Vince's run company. He's going to do what he wants to do there. So just like Will says, there's just so many. Like the AJ almost, I'm not even into that thing. I think because almost is still too green. I think if he was a little more seasoned, it might be a different story. But right now, I don't see anything. Like they just basically killed AJ Styles off of TV. He goes down to NXT, does this thing with Graylin, and that was a missed opportunity because if they want to push Graylin Waller, then he should have went over AJ. But it wasn't. It was a 2-week build and a couple of interviews and then a match, and then it was over with. And now Graylin's on to a feud with LA Knight, and we did not see AJ. I don't believe this past Monday, so we won't see AJ again probably till Royal Rumble time, and hopefully he gets rewarded for that. But yeah, we can go back and look at all these missed opportunities. Women's tag team division. I think we can do like 4 or 5 podcasts on this thing. So
Probably. Well,
and that's not even. I'm not even going to say WWE too. You can look at all across the wrestling boards how many missed opportunities there have been in recent years with great matchups that could have happened that just didn't happen.
so the current rumor that you were talking about, to where you're talking about you don't know what's going to happen with Seth Rollins. Is he going to beat Roman Reigns? From one of the rumors that I heard was that Seth Rollins could beat Reigns, and then there could be a belt swap to where you could end up having Rollins take that belt to Raw, and then Lesnar takes the WWE Championship to SmackDown because that's how they originally wanted it. The Universal title on Raw and the championship on SmackDown.
And that's where you see where Rollins said this past Monday when he wins the championship, he's going to change it back to red. So that could be how they do that too.
Mm-hmm.
Because he's on loan to SmackDown, I believe, is how they're kind of building this thing.
Yeah, he's on loan. So they were trying to find somebody, I believe, to take it back to Raw, and I feel like that they might think that Rollins is the guy for it. So all right, so we'll go into our next topic here, which is our Royal Rumble predictions. All right, mess around, Dave. What is your Royal Rumble predictions?
Randy Orton wins the Rumble for the men, and Bianca Belair wins it for the women.
All right, Will.
For the women, I think it's going to be Liv Morgan. I think the push has been there for a while. They've been trying to get the build up going. I think it's kind of predictable, but I think it's going to be her. And for the men, I think it's going to be Edge.
Oh, wow. Edge again, huh?
Well, they've had this huge comeback for him. They've done all these things with him. They put him in main event after main event, but they haven't put a belt on him. And I think, we've all been talking about it for a long time that he's going to have one last title run. And you've got plenty of time between the Rumble and WrestleMania if you decide to take it off of him and put it somewhere else. But I think he's going to win the Rumble and he's going to get his title shot. And it'll probably be like a February pay-per-view kind of thing or event. I guess I don't call it pay-per-view anymore. And then
Premium live events.
Premium live event. So I think there's the opportunity for Edge to win it. And Edge has won a couple Rumbles already, so it wouldn't be unheard of.
Yeah, and you could potentially see Edge versus Seth Rollins again if Rollins has the title.
Absolutely.
And we know that feud was fantastic. All right, so Joe.
Well, their pay-per-view or premium live event for February has been announced. It's the Elimination Chamber in Saudi Arabia, so fans are having fun with that with that right now. If you look at the internet, holy cow. But yeah, that's going to be their event over there. So there's a whole bunch of time to play around with WrestleMania. At one point, I thought it was going to be Drew, but a lot of people are saying Drew. A lot of people are saying Big E. I feel golly, I feel that Lesnar gets screwed out of the championship, and somehow he gets into the Rumble because they haven't announced everybody, and Lesnar wins it, and that's how we get the Lesnar Roman match at WrestleMania.
That could definitely be an interesting way to go about it.
I hate to say it, but I really hope Randy Orton wins it. Like we've been talking about, he deserves it. The women's side, I don't want to see Bianca Belair win it right now. She's been in all these segments every week, and it seems like the fans are dying off on her a little bit. But she's still got that big, strong fan base behind her. But I want to see somebody new and exciting. I mean, for a fan, give me something new. I'm tired of seeing the same storylines every week. I'm tired of. That's why you're not getting fans in the seats, man. I mean, who wants to keep seeing Becky versus Bianca every week, and you're building this up on television every week, and then you want me to, if I don't own the Peacock, to drop. I think I looked at it as like $50 for a pay-per-view. I'm not going to do that, So hopefully it's Liv. I want to see somebody new. I think Liv deserves it. She's earned it, and it'll be something exciting, or Bliss wins it somehow.
Yes, so I was right there with you on the female side, especially. I was thinking Bliss, or I was going to throw a curveball out there in left field, and I was going to also say that we could potentially see the return of Bayley, and so Bayley could surprise a lot of people, return, and then come out and win the Rumble, because they were giving her a push again before she got hurt. So
I hope so, because I got a bunch of Bailey autographs I need to sell.
Well,
yeah, and she's walking around right now. She was at the Cowboys game this past week, so she's up and moving around. So that's a good thing.
Yeah, so I'm telling you, like that's what I'm throwing out there in left field and saying, don't be surprised if Bayley makes her return and can somehow win the Rumble.
And with Orton's last win, it came about too when he was in that feud with the Wyatt family. So he got pushed for that feud with the Wyatts, and they rewarded him by that Royal Rumble win. So he's been in that dreaded RK Bro thing. So hopefully that works out for him.
And I'm still not completely 100% sure who I'm gonna pick in the Rumble on the men's side yet. It's too. I'm not sold, man. I could go many different ways with it.
You mean you're not going to pick Johnny Knoxville?
No.
I almost wanted to. I wanted to go him or Sami Zayn, but that I can't do that. I just can't pull the trigger on that yet.
Right.
But I will predict. I think Johnny throws out Sami, and we see a surprise appearance by Kane, and it scares the crap out of Johnny. And Johnny decides he wants to jump off the top rope. Kane tombstones him like Pete Rose, and then throws him over.
Hey, can I give a shout out real quick?
Yeah, go ahead.
No matter who wins the Royal Rumble, Dragon Viper will not care for it.
Correct.
Right?
He won't. He'll be like, "Oh, I didn't like it much."
Don't forget Goldberg.
Shout out to Dragon Viper. We miss you, buddy.
Yeah, don't forget Goldberg can come back and win the whole thing. He's got one match left.
No,
that'd be awesome.
No,
not until we did.
Yeah, I like that. I like that. I'm changing my pick. I'm thinking Goldberg. No, I'm kidding.
Oh, dang it. That hurts, man. Every time you pick Goldberg, that hurts inside.
Goldberg throws out 28 guys.
So in the 95 Royal Rumble, I don't remember if it was Timothy Well or Stephen Dunn, but one of them entered the match, and Jerry Lawler's like, "Man, I like this guy." And Vince McMahon says, "Jerry, is he going to win the Royal Rumble?" And Jerry says, "I don't like him that much." So that's what I think of when you say Sami Zayn and Johnny Knoxville.
And I want to say something about that 95 Rumble, too. I was going to say earlier, out of those 30 guys, that was the shortest Royal Rumble in the history. One of the histories is like 1 minute intervals. And Shawn Michaels won it in like 38 minutes. But unfortunately, out of Timothy Well and Stephen Dunn, they're both passed away now. But out of the 30 guys, we've lost 10 superstars in the course of that time that was in that 95 Rumble.
Yeah. I don't know.
All right. So with that, we're at that point now to where that's, the end of the show. So Joe, I'll start out with you and say any final thoughts.
Yep. Goldberg's coming back, win the Royal Rumble.
Oh man, that hurts.
Tampa Bay is going to squeak out a victory by 7 points this weekend. Green Bay, they might win. I think, and I'm kidding. I'm sure they're going to win. No, guys. Honestly, though, thank you guys. It's always fun getting on here chit chatting about men and women wrestling around in their underwear and us getting so excited about things that are predetermined, folks. I mean, these are pre-scripted matches. Wrestling's not real, unfortunately. But I never knew that though.
Wait, it's not? It's not?
No, it's
Well,
not broke. What's that
Oh,
book
my
called?
God.
If it's not wrestling's broke, don't fix it by Bill Apter, which is a good book, good read.
You just ruined my childhood now. I
Oh.
thought
I
it
did.
was.
Wait till I tell you about Santa Claus and Easter Bunny on next week's show.
I can't handle that. That's too much.
And that's
way
why I'm
too
the
much.
most. That's why I'm your son's favorite podcaster right there, is because of things like that. Hopefully you put him to bed, because next week I'll tell you about Easter Bunny. But no, guys, thank you guys. I enjoy it. I have fun. I really do.
All right, Will.
A couple of things. Number one, we wanted to change it up this week and talk about things a little differently. And, I definitely enjoyed it, and it fit right into the timeline. So definitely more of this in the future. Thanks to everybody for interacting. Humongous shout out to Dragon Viper. Humongous shout out to Crispy Bacon, behind the scenes. I always want to make sure that we show respect to those guys. Humongous shout out to Billionaire Ted's Wrestling War Room, which started in January of '96. And if you don't know what that is, I highly recommend you go check it out on YouTube, because it actually started a part of the WWF WCW feud, Billionaire Ted's Wrestling War Room. So if you don't know what that is, I'm sorry that you don't know, but that was some fun times in wrestling back then.
I don't know. I don't even know what that is.
Billionaire Ted's Wrestling War Room. Trust me.
I'm gonna go look it up right now.
Trust me. So once you see it, you'll laugh and you'll know what it is. Thank you to Top Rope Collectibles, my group, my guys, all my admins, my folks over there. Thanks for all the support, guys. Ben and I will be live tomorrow night with a big sale. Even if you're not buying, come by, check it out, say hello, see all the goodies we got, all the great stuff. We appreciate all the support, and look forward to next week. Look forward to doing this again. So, and a huge shout out and thank you to Dave for jumping in and joining us. I can tell you Dave doesn't interrupt me like Big B does, so it wasn't quite as much fun because Dave's a whole lot more quiet. But, thanks for coming in, Dave, and hope to see you again here on Tuesday Night Mania.
Absolutely. He gets right to the point, man, and he just leaves it alone.
All right, Mess Around Dave, what are your final thoughts?
Well, thanks for letting me pop on here for the short time I was here. I'm dealing with COVID right now for the second time I caught this shit. So, other than that, it's always great to be on with you guys. I know I've only been on a couple times. I could do it more. Just thanks for having me.
No problem.
And San Francisco is going to upset the Packers, and the Bucks are going to beat the Rams by 3 with a field goal, and that's going to put the 49ers and the Bucks in the NFC Championship. And for the AFC, I don't really care what happens, but I'm going to take the Chiefs winning the divisional round and then going on to the AFC Championship and losing to the Bengals.
Wow.
Ooh. I'm going complete opposite. I'm going to Bills in that one, but Bengals, man, that's a good one. I like that.
Bucks and Bengals.
I can't be friends with Will anymore. All right. All right. So
Mess Around Dave's taking over next week, guys, because Ace has been voted off.
Right.
Or he voted himself off the island.
Billionaire Ted's Wrestling War Room.
I'm looking at it right now. The first one on there is the Nacho Man and the Hulkster.
That's right.
All right. Well,
I know what to watch later on today.
Well, we do want to thank everybody for watching the show. Thank you to all of our viewers. Thank you, Mess Around Dave. Thank you, Joe. Thank you, Will. Thank you, Crispy Bacon. And, of course, anybody else out there who decides to watch the show. Thank you very, very much. You can catch us every Tuesday for Tuesday Night Mania. And then tomorrow, you can actually catch multiple shows right here on Coast to Coast Entertainment Network. You can watch Holistic Hot Mamas. You can watch the Bo and Joe show. And then, of course, later that night, you can watch Sports Minute. So with that, everybody have a fantastic night, and we will see you next Tuesday for another episode of Tuesday Night Mania.
Go Bucks.